Hello language learners. As a language coach, I have learned a lot of lessons regarding how to learn a language, and so looking back, I realized how many mistakes I was making, and not even just about which resources to use, because that's only like a small percentage of the battle. The biggest battle that I had was mindsets and ways that I was approaching language learning, ways that I was talking to myself about how I was learning languages, and all sorts of mindset shifts. So in this video, I want to talk about 5 things that I would have loved to be able to say to my past language learning self who was struggling, wanted so badly to learn languages, but was just so stuck. 5 pieces of advice that I wish I could have given my old struggling language learning self, and 5 pieces of advice that I share with my clients every single day. First piece of advice is to stop being so hard on yourself. I was so hard on myself, so critical, so judgmental, just like mean to myself when I wasn't improving as quickly as I wanted to, when I wasn't able to learn a language as consistently as I wanted to, when I wasn't able to do the things that I thought other people were doing. So, 10 years ago, I was looking up to internet polyglots. I either assumed incorrectly that they were spending all their time every single day learning their languages intensely and making so much progress all the time, or even if they were doing that, I was assuming that because they were able to spend 6 hours, 8 hours every single day learning the languages, that I should be able to do that. I was comparing myself to these people on the internet who I didn't know. I didn't know what their jobs were. I didn't know what their lives were like. I didn't know any details about those kinds of things. Because there were strangers on the internet who were posting about how awesome they were learning languages, I put my own deflections onto them and assumed that they had perfect language strategies and they were learning every single day without fail and they were just perfect, you know? So every time I wasn't perfect, I would criticize myself. Every time I fell off of my routine because I got sick or something happened, I was mad at myself. Every time that I would set myself a goal to study for an hour a day and I missed a day for whatever valid reason, I would criticize myself and say, okay, well, I'm going to study for 2 hours tomorrow, which was just punishing me for, not being able to study like I wanted to because I'm a human. When I wasn't making tangible progress that I could see instantly, I figured I'm not growing fast enough, I'm not progressing fast enough, there must be a better way to do this, I should be doing this other thing, or, I was so critical of myself and very, very, very hard on myself for no good reason, looking back. And this is something that I see my clients do every single day that I help them with, is they're just so self-critical and they're so judgmental, and they have to learn a whole lot of patience and trust and knowledge about what learning language is really like. Spoiler alert, it's not a magical special thing where you are making serious progress every single day and you are studying so hard every single day and you are magically becoming closer and closer to becoming fluent every single day. That's not what real life language learning is. Language learning is slow, sometimes agonizingly slow and agonizingly difficult progress over time, and it's taking breaks sometimes, it's having to put the book down sometimes, it's having self-discipline sometimes, and it's really not as magical and sparkly and perfect as we like to think sometimes. So past Jamie, stop being so hard on yourself, and you stop being so hard on yourself. Nobody is perfect. I'm not perfect. Nobody on the internet is perfect. You don't see the whole picture. My second piece of advice for my past self and for any struggling language learners out there is that just because there are free options to learn your language doesn't mean you should avoid options that cost money. I am cheap, and I had to learn that yes, there are many, many ways to learn languages for free, depending on what language you're learning, but that doesn't mean that paid resources aren't valuable and aren't worth it. Paid resources can be an incredibly valuable tool to support in your language learning that free resources simply can't. Maybe they're not as engaging, maybe they're not as high quality, maybe they don't help you speak like you need to be able to practice speaking, maybe they don't go past beginner levels. There are all sorts of things that only paid resources can support you in because they're higher quality, and people deserve to be paid for the high quality resources that they create for language learners. I mean, the amount of time that I spent on Duolingo because it's free, the amount of time that I spent on LiveMocha, which LiveMocha isn't a thing anymore, but back in the day I was on LiveMocha. They had this program where if you corrected the submissions of other people speaking your native language, and you would get pro for free. And I would do that for a little bit, and I would take advantage of it because it was free and I was cheap, and it didn't actually help me because I spent all this time reviewing beginner stuff. And I really put myself in a corner, and I really throttled my progress because I was not willing to push myself with a paid resource, because I just assumed it wasn't necessary. I just assumed that it wouldn't be able to help me, and that, it was just a waste of money, because I could always just, Google translations, and I could always just use Duolingo, and I could always just open a textbook that I had. That is a very limiting belief, and that will really stop you from being able to achieve your goals if there is a paid resource out there that is better for your goals, better to help you accomplish your goals based on a variety of different reasons. I mean, on the flip side, just because a resource is paid doesn't mean it's inherently better for you. But the idea that paying for a resource is not worth it because there are so many other free options is not accurate at all, not based on reality and logic. Past Jamie, if it's important to you, then you gotta be willing to invest a little bit in your own language learning. That's just how it is. Number 3, the third piece of advice I have for my old language learning self is to listen to yourself. Your brain and your body are trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you that the strategies that you're attempting aren't working for you. One of the reasons why you keep failing, one of the reasons why you keep falling off the boat is because you're not listening to your anxiety, you're not listening to your stress, you're not listening to your boredom, you're not listening to all these different things that are trying to tell you, hey, this isn't working for you, find another strategy. You're not listening to yourself, and you really need to listen to yourself in order to be productive and be successful in your language learning. I mean, not only did I set so many unrealistic language goals for myself based on short-term motivation, that never works, but when I was trying to follow through with those expectations for myself and it didn't work, I just kind of ignored it. I just kind of try to push through it, and eventually you burn out. I would really just burn out. I committed to one baseline conversation a day, which is really motivating at first. If you're not familiar with what baseline is a great tool to, it's like the gym membership thing where you pay a monthly fee and you have as many conversations in Spanish as you like, which is really awesome. And I was like, okay, great. So what I can do is I can schedule a conversation on baseline every single day, or 3 times a week, or whatever it is that I decided to do. I honestly don't remember anymore. But I set myself this completely unrealistic goal, mostly on the basis of making sure that each class costs as little as possible. I did the whole math of $250 a month divided by this many classes, and this is how much I want to pay per class. That was my logic. So I would sign up for classes, and I experienced so much anxiety before those classes, so much anxiety. I was so afraid. And sometimes I could push through that anxiety and just kind of deal with it. And I didn't actually have any fun, but I was like, yes, you did it. You accomplished your goal. Perfect. You are a good language learner. But a lot of times I would cancel last minute because you're able to do that with baseline. I would cancel last minute because my anxiety was just so horrible. And I didn't take that as a sign that this isn't working for me. I didn't listen. I just kind of ignored it and pushed through it. My expectation for how to be a good language learner was setting a goal for myself and accomplishing it, and not thinking about, okay, did you enjoy accomplishing it? And did it get you closer to your eventual goals? I was looking for the wrong data. I was looking for the wrong stuff, and I was ignoring myself. Past Jamie, past struggling language learner Jamie, if you're experiencing a lot of anxiety and you don't actually genuinely enjoy what you're doing, stop doing it. It's not working for you. It's never gonna work out for you. There are a ton of different ways to learn a language, and just because that one sounds great and motivating in the moment doesn't mean it's actually helping you. Number 4 piece of advice for myself in the past is that marketing isn't a bad thing. So I would get so frustrated because, every language app says the same thing: get fluent in 30 days, or most efficient, best way to learn a language, or whatever it is. And my BS radar would go off. Like, I know that it's wrong and it's not accurate, that it's just marketing. And I would feel really lied to, just because I knew that they were like surface level claims that didn't actually promise anything or say anything. And so, that did feed into my like unwillingness to pay for language learning resources. Marketing was part of it. I was just like out of spite, basically. I was saying, I am not going to spend money on you because I know that your marketing is lying to me and I don't like it. I can see right past it. I'm not going to spend money on you. So what I would want to tell that version of me from like 8-10 years ago is that marketing is not a bad thing. Do not write off language learning resources just because they make blanket statements of fluency. Okay, it's not an inherently bad thing. Marketing is a tool, and without marketing, you would not know that these language learning resources exist. It is not their job to make sure that they are the best resource for you. That is up to you. That is your responsibility. I understand that you're not like a marketing person and you never will be, and that's totally fine. But don't get so personally offended that you feel like language learning resources are lying to you. That's just marketing. It's a thing, and you really honestly just ignore it. Ignore it. It's not for you. It's fine. And number 5, the final piece of advice I have for my past self is to make sure that you actually enjoy what you're doing. Throughout all of my years of failed language learning and just like slamming my head against the wall, I did so many different boring things that I hated doing. Flashcards, working with private tutors that were teaching me poetry. I don't care about poetry. Conjugation tables, these things that I didn't actually like doing. And the only reason why I successfully did them when I, made the choice to do it was that I was motivated by an obligation. I said, okay, I want to learn Spanish and this is how you do it. So I'm excited to learn Spanish right now. So I'm going to do it right now. But the actual resource, the actual method, the actual routine, the actual strategy that I was doing, I didn't actually enjoy it. I hated it. It was boring. I was letting myself get distracted by how motivated I was to learn a language as a whole, that I wasn't paying attention to how much I hated the actual methods that I was using. So eventually, once that initial motivation wore off, I stopped. I stopped doing the flashcards, stopped doing the conjugations, I stopped working with the tutors, I stopped everything just because I didn't actually like it. So, past Jamie, if you don't like what you're doing, you're not going to do it long term. There are so many infinite ways to learn languages. Just because somebody else uses this method, or just because that's how you learn how to do it in school, or just because it's free or it's cheap, or just because you have that textbook, it doesn't mean that's what you need to do. So if you don't like it, forget about it. Look for something else that you genuinely enjoy. That is one of the key factors in being consistent in the long term. You know that language learning requires long-term consistency. You are not going to do something that you don't enjoy doing long term. You just aren't. I can promise you that. One of the only ways to be consistent in the long term is to do something that you enjoy doing. That is all I have for this video. In the comment section below, let me know, have you done any of these things in the past and have you had to learn your lessons for yourself? Let me know. Please commiserate with me. All the stress I caused myself, all that time I wasted. It is what it is, am I right? Otherwise, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post a new video every Wednesday and Sunday. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next time.